Welcome back to our channel. Today's video is part 2 of Green Bench Apple Orchard in Missoula, Montana. Fred Stewart gave us a tour of his orchard, which we are really grateful for, and he shared so much knowledge that this is part 2 of the video. We do have a different video on our channel that you should check out. It's all about the raspberry portion of his U-pick. Today's video is all about how he grows his orchard and different steps he did to get it to the point it's at today. So there's a lot of knowledge about the how he did it, which was really interesting to us, and we hope it's interesting to you as well. So let's get right into the video. So these apples, did you graft them yourself?
No.
Do you know what your apples are grafted on?
Absolutely.
What are they?
Emla 26 is the rootstock.
Okay.
And I can show you where the dividing line is.
Okay.
The first year, they were all grafted by Canyon View Nursery in Corvallis. Roger Joy.
Okay.
He likes Emla 26.
Okay.
So that was the rootstock for that first year. And I talked to him after that first year, and I said, how about this Geneva rootstock, Geneva 30?
Okay.
Because I would read up on
Yeah,
stuff.
you looked into it probably.
And it looked like they would be more productive.
Okay.
His comment was something like, never quit a winner.
He liked what he liked.
He was used to Emla 26, and he wasn't too interested in changing.
Okay.
But I talked him into grafting onto Geneva 30 for me.
Okay.
And there's a noticeable difference in the productivity between those two rootstocks. Okay. But I would think that you'd have to do, and Geneva 30 is old.
Okay.
I mean, Geneva's got a lot newer rootstocks, and you've already grafted, haven't you?
Yeah, he did Bud 9 for most of them.
Bud 9,
yep.
Okay.
And then
a Russian. I think Bud 9 is Russian also.
I think he's the one who researched all the grafting. That was his winter project.
Right. Well, and those are hardy.
That was the thought.
No, that's...
Yeah. And how do you keep track of the varieties you have for the fruitwood in here? Do you know what they are?
Sure.
You do?
I mean, I have a map.
Okay, that's how we do it too. I was just curious, like how you do it.
I have a map with when they were planted, what the variety is.
Okay.
And last year I had a fellow who was helping me. I mean, I assigned a identification code to every tree.
Okay, cool.
And I had this fellow go through with my little notebook and visually comment on the yield and the condition of every tree. I have not done anything with it yet.
Okay, but you have it. It's good to have it.
I have it. Yeah. Are you familiar with irrometers?
No, I'm not.
So an irrometer is basically a plastic hollow tube, and on the end of the hollow tube is a ceramic tip. It's about this long, that's porous. You fill the tube up with basically water, colored water.
Okay.
It's more than colored water, but it's a liquid. The soil moisture, if it's dry, it will try to pull water across that porcelain barrier. And as it tries to pull it across, it creates a vacuum because the column is sealed with this lid, and then there's a vacuum gauge in this area.
I see.
So the vacuum gauge is above the column of water. So the drier the soil, the more vacuum would be created.
Okay, cool.
And so right now this is reading 10, 20, about 30 something.
So what would you do with that reading? What does that reading tell you?
What that reading tells me is how dry the soil is. I have a total of 7 of these in the orchard. This one's at 18 inches, and then I have 3 with the trees that are pairs of 18 and 36 inches. So I know the moisture level at that depth.
Yep.
I use that then when I'm paying attention and when the equipment's functioning properly to know when it's getting dry and it's time to irrigate
That's cool.
Again, to get water on it.
That's a good thing to keep in mind.
So NRCS is interested in water conservation. So this is a way of trying to help people put the right amount of water on.
Cool.
I also had a flow meter that they paid for these things. I bought it and then they paid for it. After I put these in, my water consumption dropped in half.
Really?
Almost exactly in half. It reduced the amount because prior to putting those in, it takes about 8 days for me to get my irrigation all the way around.
I bet.
And I was just going continuous. I just kept it running all the time. Now I don't have to keep it running all the time. I try to pay attention to the gauges.
At what point do you decide, oh, it's time to irrigate what?
Oh, if it gets around 40 to 50.
Okay.
And I irrigated here a week ago, so it's still
it's
still doing fine.
That long.
Up closest to us, these trees were planted in 2012, so they're 12 years old now.
Okay.
These particular trees happen to be on Geneva 30, and I can tell you where the break point is between them. When they were young, you could really tell the difference between the Geneva 30 and the Emla 26. So the Geneva 30 turned out to be a good choice just by luck. But very few of the nurseries like Geneva 30, the people that supply the rootstock, I guess they're hard to deal with. When I set up the orchard, again, I did the map, where they're located, tried to have every tree within 50 feet of another variety for pollination purposes, because none of these trees are self-fruitful. Wealthy is a variety that blooms, supposedly, from the beginning to the end of the blooming period for all the other varieties.
Okay.
So it should be a pollinator for everything that I have. The wealthy are scattered randomly across the orchard, so they're within, so they provide the pollination that we would need.
That's very well thought out of you to do.
Well, I mean, that's what...
Yeah. It's a good thought, though.
That's what they suggest.
It's just one of those things you could easily overlook, but you got it. Is there a favorite apple variety that you grow?
My two favorites would be Honeycrisp and Good Land.
Good Land.
Good Land comes ripe the same time as Honeycrisp. It's about as productive. I think it tastes as good. But those two plus Wealthy are the first ones that come on, and they should be coming on within a matter of weeks.
Really? Nice.
Then after that, some of the other varieties will start coming. Half of my trees are Honeycrisp. Like, I have 185 producing trees, 185 trees that I planted. I'll tell you about the others in a minute.
Okay.
But about half are Honeycrisp, and that was just lucky. Because people know Honeycrisp and they really like Honeycrisp.
Yeah,
so it's a big draw.
Yeah.
When I first asked the nurseryman, Roger Joy, to graft Honeycrisp, he said, it's patented and I can't do it.
Oh, okay.
It came off patent that fall.
Nice.
I went back to see Roger and I said, it came off patent. And he said, no problem, I can do it.
Nice.
And I know that some varieties now are really limited, even to growers in Washington State. That's the only place you can get it.
Yep.
So at any rate, then the other varieties were just kind of a mix of a guess.
Okay.
What might work well. Spartan is one that comes in toward the end of the season. It's supposed to be more pest resistant.
Okay. Based
upon literature and so on, and I can see that. The Honeycrisp, yellow jackets, birds, different things like the Honeycrisp as well as people.
Okay.
So
good to know. How do you deal with the pests and the bugs and all of that in the apples?
Okay, so the main pest I have is Codling moth.
Okay.
And there is a protocol that I follow from Washington State University.
Okay.
That uses dormant oil for the first generation of codling moth, and dormant oil and a virus for the second generation.
Okay.
And I'm right into the second generation now. I did the dormant oil spray last week, and the dormant oil kills the eggs of the codling moth.
Okay. Is that just a procedure you just do every year, no matter what?
Well, I have been doing it.
Okay.
Because the codling moths are bad.
Really?
They really will affect the crop.
Okay.
The extension service here in town, the plant lady, I call her, is Sandy Perrin.
Okay.
She's the lady that knows everything. She gives me a trap, and if you have enough time, I can show you the trap, to catch the codling moth.
Okay.
And the only purpose of that is to know when they're out, when they show up in the springtime. You take that information, I send that back to her. She gives me the trap and stuff. It's just to know, it's just a monitoring thing.
Okay.
I send that information to her. There is a University of Utah model for pests, and codling moth is one of the pests that it tracks. So you put in, somebody puts in the date when the codling moths show up.
Okay. These look gorgeous.
So the new rootstocks started, let me get it right. It's either this row or this row. When I change, it's hard to see now between the Geneva and the Emily 26. This is clearly a variety that's different than the others. This is Good Mac.
Yep.
It's the only apple I have that is green all the time.
Okay.
When it's ripe, it's green, like Granny Smith, but it's not tart like Granny Smith.
Okay.
People like red apples.
So Good Mac is this one?
Keep that in mind. Yep.
Yeah, people like red apples.
If you're going to do U-pick, yeah.
Yep.
Some people like green, but most people like. So there is another Irrometer station.
Oh, I see that right at the bottom there.
Yeah.
That tree right at the base.
Because I do U-pick and because I've got so many varieties, I hang these ribbons in the tree when they're ripe.
Oh.
So the white ribbons are Honeycrisp.
Okay.
And I don't have ribbons in the trees that do not have ripe apples. So when people are here to pick, I say, during Honeycrisp season, I say, you got to find the tree with the white ribbons. You can pick off any tree you want to, but it's not going to taste good.
Yeah.
And with this many trees and this many varieties, it has turned out to be a good way for people to know what's going on.
Nice. That's a good tactic.
So we had this really big wind.
Yep.
That put a whole lot of my apples on the ground.
I was wondering about your apple trees in that wind.
It put a very large amount of apples. I would guess a third of the crop went on the ground.
Really?
But you can still, unfortunately, we still have a pretty good load of apples.
Are these semi-dwarf varieties? They are?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have to prune them aggressively to keep them from going up higher.
Okay.
I don't use any ladders for people. So they have to be able to pick from the ground.
Yeah.
We are trying to get the branches up off the ground.
I see.
We have pruned a lot of lower branches. Even though we're trying to get them up off the ground, we're not entirely successful. Initially, I thought having branches low to the ground would be great for kids. Kids that have to crawl to get these. And it's really hard to cultivate underneath the trees.
I bet.
With them down low.
Yeah.
So that's something we've had to do to
So you
bring them down from the top and then up a little bit from the bottom. Depending on how
Good to know.
How you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time and a lot of money then
I bet you do.
cultivating under the trees because I can't use chemicals, obviously.
So by cultivating, do you mean pulling weeds, or do you mean mowing, or do you mean weed whipping?
initially when the trees were little, I used, first year I tried weed mat.
Yep.
That was awful.
Okay.
Because then the grass comes up through it and you can't do anything.
Yes, we've kind of hated weed mat this year.
I ended up ripping up all the weed mat after 1 year.
Uh-huh.
Then I tried a rototiller.
Yep.
And that's okay when the trees are tiny, but a tree like this, you can't use a rototiller around that.
Yeah.
I've tried lots of different things. What I've ended up with is I mow it as short as I can in the springtime. I use a flail thatcher, which blades that flip around like this.
Okay.
And I can use that to kind of stir things up without cultivating deep and hurting any
the
roots.
roots.
So I can do that once or twice, and then I can't do that anymore. So now we're down to just using a mower.
Gotcha.
So this is the codling moth trap.
Okay.
And
cool.
again, it just lets me know when codling moths are here. And there's a pheromone in it to attract the male codling moth.
Nice.
So my irrigation is that center piece, and it goes in circles usually, except when the wind's blowing like this. And then on the corners, I pick it up with the small sprinklers. So the sprinkler,
you move those tripods?
The tripod sprinkler is big enough that it'll go side to side on this section.
Okay.
And then going down that way, I have to move it 2 times to get full coverage, with the little ones filling in the corners.
So you only overhead water at this point?
That's correct.
Okay.
And NRCS recommended, and a lot of people recommend, drip irrigation for insect disease control. But what I wanted to do was to produce enough nutrient on site so that I don't have to bring in other nutrients. So I started out planting a lot of alfalfa, mowing with the idea that I'm going to mow it, I'm going to blow it underneath the trees, it would be compost on site. And I could never figure out a way to do that with drip irrigation. Because with drip irrigation, none of this other area would be growing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have overhead.
So you want the grass, you want the alfalfa in the field.
Yes. And
good to know.
I've just started to mow, but the field was as full as from here over to the tripod sprinkler. And so I'm not a range guy, but there'd be tons per acre of vegetation. Yeah. And I mow it after my help mows under the trees, and I go back through again and blow the grass under the tree. Okay. The soil tests tell me that the nutrients are okay without much in the way of anything additional.
So you want alfalfa in here? What other grasses or mixes?
Well, I happen to have orchard grass.
Orchard grass, I was wondering.
But alfalfa, the roots, they say they go down 6 feet to 9 feet.
I've heard more, yeah.
And they pull up micronutrients. Okay. So that was the reason to start out with the alfalfa. And there's still residual amounts here, but I can't control all the grass and stuff.
What is your soil like here? What is your soil quality?
Extremely good.
Extremely good. Well, that's good. Here, one more time. What is your soil like here, Fred?
I can't give you the technical name for it.
But it's really good.
Yes. Good. When I was putting in the post for the fence that goes all the way around it, we would get down 36 inches, just go straight down.
No rock.
No rock until I got up by the parking lot.
Yep.
I would get into sand after about, it varies. Maybe after 10 inches, 12 inches, would start getting into sandy kind of stuff. But the soils are really good. And I've got basically unlimited water.
That's nice.
Because I can get water from the irrigation ditch.
I saw your irrigation ditch up there.
So I can get water from the ditch. I can get water from a well. Right now I'm watering off the well. Okay. And the wells here are 100 feet deep and 80 to 100 gallons a minute.
Nice. You get some good pressure. Yeah.
And so I'm really lucky that way.
Of course, yeah. Water's everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if your soil, since you don't know what your soil is, do you know if it's like alkaline or if it's?
Oh, I know what
the pH is?
it's. Yeah, 7.6
Okay.
basically. So it is on the alkaline side.
Mm-hmm. And ours is on the alkaline side, so that's why I was curious about that.
So
To know what's possible.
Potassium, really none of the, and it's high. When the soil tests come back, they're really high in potassium and phosphorus. So I would never need any of that because it rates as very high.
Yep.
About the only thing that you could add to it would be a nitrogen source, which I'm trying to do.
Yep.
And organic matter.
Okay.
And the organic matter is again coming up from the ground. I'm sorry, from
what you're growing.
From the vegetation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the orchard comes this way and then around the corner going over that direction. And the area over there was planted the third year. And all of those are in the Geneva 30. And from a certain break point here forward, they're on Geneva 30.
Okay.
I had put in a row of Geneva 30 rootstock because I thought I would do some grafting and sell some trees maybe. I wasn't sure. So I had this row and I grafted 100 trees. I think I got 3 or 4 of them to take.
Oh, really?
It told me,
okay,
grafting is not going to be in your future. So then I didn't do anything with those rootstocks, and they're basically a shrub when they grow up. So after, it may have been 8 years ago that I did that, I talked with another farmer who knows how to graft, and I asked him if he could graft onto these shrubby, bushy rootstocks. And he said, if you trim everything off and just leave one stem, I'll come and graft it for you. So I did that, and I'm going to show you what he did.
Ooh, yay.
He grafted 45, and he got 45 to take.
Great.
The wind blew one of them off.
Okay.
And he used, I was bud grafting, and he was using a section of cyanwood. And the variety is Cur Crab.
Okay.
We grow that.
You do? Cool. They're about this big around. When I first introduced them to people to taste, half the people would literally say, "Oh wow," because of the flavor.
Yep.
It's so good. And they had never heard of them before. I had 4 trees to fill in the space. Once they started producing, I put them on the table to give to people. The next year, they wanted them, especially the kids. Last year, I put ribbons around the trees to keep them away from the trees until they would get ripe. I never got a 1 because people would pass the ribbons
and just get one?
to pick them anyway. So that's why I asked the guy who knows how to graft Cur Crab for me. So now I have 40 Cur Crab trees, and I'll show you what I did with them.
Yeah, let's go see them.
He's going to whip and thumb graft, I assume, on those stems that you left the leaders.
I think so, yeah. And he would take a piece of cyanwood from my trees and immediately go put it onto
Really?
Yeah.
Cutting it off in the spring?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
In May, he spent about 4 hours. It was still dormant.
Oh, I see.
So I had this row is about half this length. And so he grafted all that stuff, and then to spread out the trees, we started moving trees to kind of give them some spacing. Since I don't have room for them, I did a little bit of research on this trellis approach, espalier or however. So this is the from the rootstock.
Yep.
But you would
suckers.
know. Yeah.
And this is on Geneva as well?
This is on Geneva 30. So last May, not this May, last May is when he did the grafting down here somewhere. So it grew from there to here.
2 years.
Last year. This year it's gone from here to here. Some of the trees up at this end were transplanted because they were too close together. The ones that didn't have to be transplanted have grown a little bit more.
So this winter you're going to start clipping limbs on like this?
Yes, and I've
And
already
trim the
clipped.
rest?
I've already clipped some of the ones that are going this way and that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. You paint most of your trees when they're young?
Yes. Yeah.
And then as they get older, you don't have to worry about them when they're beautiful trees like that.
For sun-scald.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And also I put hardware cloth around them for the meadow voles. And my daughter was helping me. We were just doing the last trees with hardware cloth when we came across a couple that had been girdled by the meadow voles.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't quite get them all in time.
Get them.
And I have one over there that they came over the top of the snow above the hardware cloth and girdled it there. Initially I had, in the springtime, you'd see little trails all over the place. I would put really old, 50-year-old sawdust, wood chips, around the base of the tree. And you'd see the trails under there, and they'd get up by that wood chips, and they would stop. They wouldn't go because nothing was there.
Interesting.
So between the hardware cloth and the wood chips, and then in the springtime, I'd rake the wood chips kind of out of there and put compost down when they were young.
All right.
And I've put compost on these guys. Otherwise, I don't do any compost on the bigger trees.
Awesome.
What is the spacing on this? Do you know off the top of your head? It's like 6 feet maybe?
It's supposed to be 5.
5, and this
I mean, it's kind of what we tried.
Yeah. More of a high density system you're doing here?
Very much.
Okay.
And again, I didn't have any place to put these trees, but I wanted to try to plant some. So this was the only way I thought I might get away with it.
You're making it work. You have every inch planted, it seems.
So far. So far. And my spacing on my other trees, I think it's 12 feet.
Okay.
On center.
Okay. And it's I looked at the aerial, it's like a grid, which that's really cool how you really thought about how they go. So about 12 feet, and they seem to have enough space between them. Did you just come up with that on your own, or is that
No, I tried to look into it. But and people that have come out here to look, people with experience, would ask me, how come you put the trees so far apart? Because they're more used to higher density.
Okay.
But if you look at what we've got here, to be able to get equipment in here,
I think it looks great.
I couldn't do it any closer.
Yeah, I really do like that spacing. I think that looks great. How they filled in.
But in terms of getting in between here, I'm going to show you my spray equipment. Getting in between here with spray equipment is a little bit of a challenge.
So for the U-pick, do people come pick a box and then you weigh it and then that's their price, or how does it work?
I decided I didn't want to weigh anything.
Okay.
So I have bags that are 1/4 of a bushel and 1/8 of a bushel.
Okay.
So 1/8 of a bushel is half of a peck. It's supposed to be about 5 to 6 pounds. And the 1/4 of a bushel should be twice that much, should be about 12 pounds.
Okay.
I sell them the bag. They give me the money. They go pick.
Oh.
They can pick whatever they want.
Well.
If they want to chew on an apple, I don't care.
Okay. How much is the bag that you sell?
The smaller bag is $10. The bigger bag is $20.
Okay.
So
nice system.
In multiples of 5.
Yeah.
My raspberry baskets are $5.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my criteria.
How do you feel like people treat you and your property when they come out here, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it's fine.
They do okay?
They do well. Yep. So it's a 0-turn mower.
Okay.
And I can get in between and around the trees with this. And I tried other things that didn't work well. On the back of the 0-turn is a bracket. And I'll show you what I did with the bracket.
Okay.
So this contraption is a sprayer. And over there is a tank. And the tank fits on the front of the mower.
Okay.
It's a 25-gallon tank with a pump on it. And then that pump sends liquid back to this guy. This guy's got a big fan on it and nozzles here, and it is a mist sprayer. So instead of me holding a wand and spraying the trees with a wand,
Okay.
it comes back to here and it puts out a real fine mist, which is supposed to cover a whole lot better than what you can do with a wand.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first year I've tried it.
How'd it go?
I don't know yet.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
I mean, I'll see how much damage I have on the apples.
Yeah. What are you spraying with?
I spray with
Is it?
horticulture oil
Okay.
for the first population. For the second population, I do one spray with horticulture oil, and then I follow that up with, it's called SID-X, which is a virus that attacks codling moth maggots.
Okay.
Everything is focused on codling moth.
Gotcha.
That's
I
the
was
only
wondering.
thing I have to deal with.
Okay.
Big orchards use big equipment,
I've seen those.
and they
yeah.
can spray both directions,
Uh-huh.
walking down the middle of the row.
Mm-hmm.
So this is as close as I could get with something small,
Yeah.
more affordable that might work.
Yeah. Did you purchase that, or is this something
Yes.
you? Okay.
No, I bought it, and then it came with this piece of equipment that was really a narrow spray
Mm-hmm.
that would go like 50 feet up in the air.
Okay.
And I called the manufacturer and I said, I need something that would be wide
Mm-hmm.
for my small orchard. So they said, well, we got something like that. So that was this part here that attaches to the fan.
Gotcha. Very neat. Well, Fred, I really do thank you for having us and showing us around your property. It is gorgeous
Thank you.
and a lot of good information, a lot for us to think about, and just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Stay in touch.
Yeah.
Because questions will come up.
They will come up, so we really appreciate it. And maybe we'll make another family trip out here to come pick some apples when they ripen up.
In about a month.
Okay.